I'm Doug Henshin, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, covering data to decisions.
And I'm Diane Hinchcliffe, VP and Principal Analyst covering future of work and all topics related to the CIO. And we're your co-hosts for episode number 27 of CRTV.
That's right. We're here to talk about the latest news and trends in enterprise tech. And at the end of the show, Diane and I will be talking about the latest round of Constellation Shortlist. That's our short list of vendors that you should consider. And we have 25 of our updates coming out this week.
Yeah, they're really exciting, and we'll talk about them in a bit. Also in this episode, we'll share my interview with Supernova Award winner, Gracie Flores of Nestle. She led an implementation of a digital adoption platform, which is one of my shortlists, as a matter of fact. And also we'll have Andy Thurai, who will tell us about his latest report called AI Ops Cio Guide.
But first, let's get to the news. So, Diane, what's new in your world since the last episode of CRTV?
Well, we've been squarely in earnings season for big technology companies like Amazon and Google and Meta. And it's been interesting. Like Amazon had just absolutely stellar results. They're already an enormous, e-commerce giant, cloud giant. They saw 40% increase of revenue year over year. At their size, that's just remarkable. And we saw good numbers from Google Cloud, even though they're still a distant number 3. Azure's doing well. But the big news of the week was Meta's drop. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, had the largest market cap loss of any company in history when they turned in results that really weren't that good, and they shrank for the first time in their history. And really, investors are looking at tech stocks as being the growth engines of the next 10 or 20 years, and Meta's numbers don't look that good. And so that was really one side of the coin. Are tech stocks going to be able to hold on to their growth gains and their reputation, given how big they already are? But Amazon's numbers had the exact opposite result. They had the largest market cap gain in one day in history there. So we're seeing kind of a lot of churn there. Amazon is weak because it doesn't have any office productivity suite, doesn't have any front office tools like Azure and Google Cloud do in their Office 365 and Workspace products. So there's weakness there. And I'm seeing signs of a pricing competition for the very first time as new entrants try and get into the space. So that was a really exciting week in earnings season, but pretty choppy markets.
Yeah, well, with Amazon, it was really supply chain costs tied to the pandemic, increased costs, holiday costs. But, with one fell swoop, they increased the price of Prime and made it up just like that. So good on them. And then that swoon at Meta certainly hitting a lot of companies because it's Apple's privacy restrictions. And it hit Twitter, it hit Pinterest, Snap, but no company harder hit than Meta and Facebook.
Yep, totally agree. I think they'd have a better plan.
So in my world, I am watching a lot of Olympics. How about you, Diane?
Watching it just a little bit. It's interesting watching the whole geopolitical landscape there.
Yeah.
What do you see, Doug?
Well, I love cross-country skiing. I love biathlon. I love the downhill skiing. So I'm in heaven watching that. But I was really surprised to see Salesforce as probably one of the biggest sponsors, and they have this delightful ad featuring Matthew McConaughey. He starts the ad. He's in a space suit and he's contemplating space, but then he just passes off and dismisses it, and he declares that the new frontier is here on Earth. Later, he has sort of a clear jab at Musk and Meta and Microsoft. He says, while others look to the metaverse and Mars, let's stay here on Earth and restore ours. And this was complemented by Salesforce launching a new site at salesforce.com/Team Earth. It's a new site that lays out Salesforce's corporate values. And if you've attended a Dreamforce, you're familiar with them. It's trust, it's innovation, it's equality, it's climate action. Interesting to see that they chose Matthew McConaughey, sort of a red state icon guy, reaching across the political divide. But before I go all in on Salesforce and the idea that business is the greatest platform for change, I should also point out that there's kind of healthy debate about the role of business in addressing societal issues, including a recent essay by Peter Goodman in the New York Times, worth looking up. It's based on his book, Davos Man, How the Billionaires Devoured the World. Pretty eye-opening take on corporate tax loopholes versus corporate philanthropy. Nonetheless, I'm a big fan of the Salesforce ad campaign, and a reminder that there's more immediate and important issues than space, colonies, and the metaverse.
Although the counterpoint to that is space exploration has been tremendous in terms of our ability to actually understand issues with climate change, understanding crisis on Earth and so on. So there's good things there, and I think by all accounts they're trying to create an inclusive message on both sides of the fence, and I did like to see that. I thought that
We've had pretty good debates on our internal water cooler about the value of space. I think we've agreed that there's a lot going on in space that isn't space tourism that does indeed contribute a lot of value. So point well taken. The second news thing I wanted to talk about was consolidation continuing in the RPA and data mining space. The latest example being Automation Anywhere buying Fortress IQ. And I just happened to be writing a case study about Fortress IQ and one of its customers, Highmark Health, when this deal went down. And through that research, I've learned that Fortress IQ's strength is really in process discovery, uncovering the human work steps that you can't learn from log files and purely systems-based process mining. I think that's very differentiated, a great addition for Automation Anywhere. And as Andy Thurai pointed out in a blog on ConstellationR.com, we've seen a ton of Constellation in this space, including recent acquisitions by Microsoft and IBM and SAP, ServiceNow, Salesforce, definitely hot. Huge interest in automation during the pandemic because we've seen the Great Resignation. We've seen so many companies have trouble hiring people. So you've got to take these repetitive manual work steps that are really dehumanizing and automate them wherever possible. Don, what's your take on that?
No, I couldn't agree more. In fact, what we see, the broader trend is that we're all going to become knowledge workers, and our rote repetitive work is going to be moving into these tools. And a lot of them will just watch us work, and we'll confirm that they're doing it right, and we'll continue on with the process. But what I really like is we're seeing a lot of interest with process mining because a lot of companies have undocumented processes. They're not clear on what they actually do. You can't automate, and you can't digitally transform what you don't understand that you're doing. And I'm seeing an explosion in process mining. A little concerned about some of these companies are in China. They have a lot of Fortune 500 customers, and they're actually saying that they're process mining generally to understand how an industry works, and then they're rolling that into their product. And I have some concerns that companies I don't think are fully aware that they're teaching these platforms how their business is run. So it's very interesting to watch, but I think it's the future. I think process mining with RPA is going to be how we're going to have on-the-ground automation of regular workers' jobs. That's the future of work.
Yeah, and with Fortress IQ and similar technologies, it's using the technology to really understand the process. People will tell you, and often process mining was done manually with people observing people, but this uses the tech and AI to actually capture what the process is in the real world, not what people say it is. And often those are two different things. Well, that's it for this week's news summary. Next up is Dion's interview with Gracie Flores of Supernova Awards winner Nestle. And then we'll hear from Andy Thurai on his latest report on AI ops.
And don't miss our final segment in which Doug and I will explore the latest round of our Constellation Shortlist, which are our vendor selections in 76 different enterprise tech categories. Hi, this is Dion Hinchcliffe, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, and we are here with a very special Supernova winner for 2021 in the category of employee experience. There was a lot of great candidates for this award, but it was the solution at Nestle, and I'm being joined by Gracie Flores, who was the Senior Product Manager of this effort. Welcome, Gracie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And so tell us a little bit about Nestle. I'm sure most people are familiar with them, but they probably don't know everything that you guys do, and then help us understand the scope of the solution inside that organization that won the award.
Yeah, sure. So Nestle is the world's largest food, health, and welfare company. We employ about 277,000 people. We are live in about 180 different markets, 168 factories, and we have everything from infant nutrition to waters to confection, coffee. So many of the products that we all grew up with and are still using today are Nestle products.
At 2,000 brands, is that about right? About what you guys produce?
Yes, it kind of fluctuates, right? Up and up mostly, but yes, over 2,000 brands in just about any category that you can imagine.
In 186 countries too, I think, right? So like we're talking like a real global challenge to help people inside your organization. So you're within the Nestle IT organization, right?
I am. I'm in the Nestle IT organization, and in Nestle IT we have different streams that are usually by functional area, and then we have one stream that is called Workforce 360. And in that area, we mostly take care of almost anything that's employee facing. So the devices, our collaboration tools, and then we have a team in there called Engagement Services, and then that team helps all the different IT products and the different teams within the IT organization create and deliver the products for our end users. So we're very much focused around change, adopt, learning and training, adoption, user experience. Those are our areas of expertise.
Yeah, and so you come into this story for this solution in about 2019, is my understanding, that you had the immediate need to improve one of your internal IT tools. Could you walk us through what happened?
Right, so Nestle was going through a global implementation of SuccessFactors. And we started doing it in different waves. As you can imagine, it's pretty big to go all at once, right? So we had just gotten through the first wave of implementations. We were impacting mostly our HR business partners and our line managers with the change. So we were going to a self-help sort of tool, as SuccessFactors is, changing some business processes, some automations, things like that. So it was quite a bit of a change. So not only did they need to learn the technology, but the processes, and then just doing things they weren't used to doing. So
every Nestle employee had to use SuccessFactors for their HR services? Is that how it worked?
Eventually, at that time, in 2019, we really mostly focused on the line managers and the business partners.
Got it.
They were the ones that were interacting. Right, it was hiring and managing the life cycle of the employee. Right, it was mostly always in the hands of HR or admin, and now the product managers and the line managers were really more engaged in that day-to-day management of that employee life cycle. That's really what SuccessFactors was about, right? So it was a little hard. It was hard for them to get their hands around the whole technology thing, the technology part.
SuccessFactors is a large and sophisticated platform, which is probably why you selected it. Because it'll work for a global organization like yourself, but that doesn't necessarily make it automatically easy for a regular person, an average worker, to use.
Right. So not only do you have new terms, but you have new fields. They're called something different. You are not used to populating those fields, so you don't know what those values should be or could be. So all of those were little things that you just can't address with training. There's way too much, right? So you can't sit in a training class for weeks and weeks on end, especially in these roles. You have quite a, critical to the operation.
Operational, you have deadlines, and you can't just put them aside to learn the software application.
Exactly. It was just an outgoing, well, because of that reason. It wasn't because of the implementation of the software. It was just a situation, right? A real life experience here. So what happened was they were looking for a solution to help with the change management. And our CIO at that time, I believe, have gone to some sort of a conference or something where WalkMe made a presentation. And when he came back from that, he contacted SuccessFactors team and my boss at that time and said, hey, I really want to give this a shot. I want to try WalkMe. But the next go live for the next wave was happening in 6 weeks. And so they really wanted that in there. And, I was thrilled because I think WalkMe is a great product, and I had given it a shot, once before to try to get it, and I couldn't quite get, the right support behind it. So and I was already doing this anyway. This is sort of our DNA, as I like to call it within my team, is we really are looking for, digital adoption and learning in the workflow. And we've been doing all that since 2016, 2017. So the interesting thing is that, SuccessFactors is an SAP product, and it does have some challenges in the design and build of that solution. And we only have 6 weeks, and we had zero capability at that time in knowing how to use WalkMe. So We got into a quick call, figured it out, and we were live. We were live in 6 weeks with, I believe it was 11 processes, key processes that people needed to execute in the system. We had content created not only by us, but WalkMe also helped, and we trained the SMEs to create the content and test it. So we went live. It went fairly well. People were much happier with the solution. We got better, higher use of the target application, which is SuccessFactors. Now WalkMe is not the target application, right? But we were seeing, what we really had to see was a change in attitude for the people who were using the software. So after we came back and we did the implementation, we didn't immediately start checking on reducing support tickets or anything like that. We knew that was going to be a byproduct of what we were doing. We were really more interested in the change management aspect of it. We wanted the line managers to feel more confident in what they were trying to do, the tasks they were trying to complete. We wanted to improve the NPS, right? The Net Promoter Score around the product, and just have happier employees overall. So when we started measuring that, we noticed that, especially where we had certain areas where the usage of WalkMe was even higher than in other areas, we had much more improved NPS. The tasks were getting completed the first time. They were completed right. So the task completion rates were up. The success of the processes were up. People were happier. And so what happened was we said, okay, great, that's sort of working. Let's add it to more processes and more processes. And we just kind of started like that, just looking at where were the pain points, what were people complaining about. And then we didn't have like an overall digital adoption strategy, right? That didn't come the first year.
It was right the solution, but WalkMe is it's called a digital adoption platform. And what does it do? Is it sits with that user while they're using the SuccessFactors and kind of takes the rough edges away, gives them a little just-in-time training, pushes them in the right direction. Is that what it does?
Yes, exactly. So what it is it's a technical layer that goes on top of your technology, and then you can create content for what the user sees and does. So I like to think of it as a GPS, right? Think of it, we all use Waze or something like that, right? So you don't know where you're going when you get in your car. You just say, this is where I want to go. You tell them the end, right, where you want to go. And then you just trust the system to get you there.
Right. You mentioned that your NPS went up, and some people may not know that stands for Net Promoter Score. It's a great way to measure what people really think of a given service or a brand. And I think that the final data ended up being you actually increased your NPS by 30%, which is a really big gain. I mean, the data really shows that this had an impact to the average worker, I think.
Absolutely. And then, that was an average. There were some processes that were just really a lot worse than that, right? We had very low 5-10% of the people liked it. Everybody else was pretty rough about it. Some of it we just automated. There was a couple of things that we were able to automate almost 90% of the process. So people just go in and say, I want to initiate this, and WalkMe says, wait a minute, I'm doing something, literally. And it does, and it says, okay, it's done. Just hit submit if you're happy with what you see. So being able to increase automation of the process, right? Now we're not actually touching the core application. We're just sort of doing that process on top. So being able to automate that was really helpful. Being able to put polls and questionnaires and the surveys directly in the application, so that as soon as you're finished with the process, that's when it asks you, was it helpful? Did you like it? Would you recommend it? So doing those type of NPS questions right as soon as someone is finished also gave us much better data, because people, one, were more likely to answer it and not ignore it in their inbox, and two, you get that feeling and that whatever that personal emotion is real time. So the data is much more rich, I believe, and I think we're getting better results of it because of that as well.
Yeah, that was a fantastic story. So, well, thank you, Gracie. That was a great overview of your winning submission for the 2021 Supernova Awards. It was great to hear the story. I know the community was very enthusiastic. You guys got a lot of votes for your submission. So I was really pleased to see that, and I liked the story too. And I think more organizations are going to follow your model. So, thanks and congratulations again.
Thank you very much. It was a great honor. Honestly, it really was, and I'm very happy to have been able to represent Nestle because we do want to be very innovative and forward thinking. So it was a great opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for sharing your story.
Hello, I am Andy Thorai. Yep, that's Thorai with an AI. I want to talk to you about the new report that I put out this week, AI Ops Cio's Guide. Over the last year or two, I've been talking to a lot of CIOs and IT operations executives. How do you handle this forced maturity of digitizing your business fairly quickly because of the pandemic? They all have one common theme. The forced maturity has caused them to spend a lot of money in IT processes. Some of them are efficient, some of them are inefficient. And they are in a situation now that the C-level, C-suite is asking them to find efficiencies to reduce cost and operate more efficiently than what they were in the past year or two. So having said that, one of the couple of areas I find interesting. One is observability, which I'll be doing a report soon on, is a complex issue for a lot of enterprises, particularly for cloud native applications, cloud native full stack observability. And then the second issue, what a lot of customers are struggling with is, how do I find issues quickly and fix it? And that's where AIOps can come into play. AIOps is basically using AI and ML in IT operations to make it more efficient. So what are the benefits of AIOps? The first one could be to avoid lengthy downtimes and improve IT quality. When something goes down, which it will in a matter of time, and if it creates thousands of alerts, noises, your IT support staff and support personnel could get the alert fatigue syndrome and then get a burnout fairly quickly. And using tools such as AIOps, again, AIOps is not just about a technology, it's about processes, it's about cultural change, it's about people, process, and technology. And when you implement it properly, it could reduce it down lengthy downtimes. So I discussed about some of this top 15 benefits of AIOps, including how you could reduce the SRE, DevOps, and IT support personnel burnout, and how can you avoid lengthy war rooms, and also how do you make proposal to your C-level executives saying that that I can make our systems better. And the most common use cases that I've seen customers use AIOps is for noise reduction and root case analysis, even though I discussed about 8 top commonly used use cases as well. Look, at the end of the day, when your system goes down, you need to figure out fairly quickly to fix it. So the MTT, or mean time to resolution, consists of 2 major components. The first one is being identify the problem. Second one is fix the problem. Most times when you know what the problem is, once you identify the problem, fixing the problem is somewhat easy because you have scripts in place, you have a knowledge base, you have automation in place probably, or you know what to do to fix the problem. But identifying the problem takes most of the time when you're fixing the issues. And the root cause analysis and identification, when you use solutions such as AIOps and if you're able to full stack observe your systems, it's able to reduce that root cause analysis as much as possible. So you can find out what the problem is as soon as, sometimes even by looking at the trending and anomaly detection and whatnot, even able to figure out the root cause, even the issues before it happens. And the other thing I've seen people use is when something goes down, when something is not working properly as expected, the noise creation, especially if you observe full stack, can throw a lot of alerts, a lot of errors, especially if not configured properly. It's not uncommon for an event when it happens, a critical event, throwing thousands of errors from everywhere in the stack. So if you receive all of those, how do you figure out a way to reduce the noise, reduce the alert fatigue, to find out the root cause and fix the problem? And I discussed some of those use cases in my report as well. And the last section, I also discuss about the best practices that I've seen with a lot of these customers and how to implement it. You got to identify what your business need is. Just because AIOps can do a lot of this doesn't mean that that's needed for your particular business. So you need to figure out what your business needs are. You got to engage your C-suite early. You need to prove to them that you know what it can do for your solution, and then you got to choose the right AI app solution. You cannot just randomly pick something up because of the vendor's sales pitch. And then you got to get a right set of supporting tools that will work with the app solution. And then there needs to be a cultural change as well, and not always chasing everything and in a firefighting mode. But you got to move your IT from a proactive, reactive into a proactive IT. So I discuss all of that in my report. Please get a copy of the report, read it through. If you have questions, reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Andy Thirai on Twitter, or you can email me at andy@constellation.com.
Hey folks, Doug Henschen here, and it's that time of year again. Time for the latest release of the Constellation Shortlist updates. I'm here with Diane Hinchcliffe, and we're going to share a few of the highlights among our latest lists.
That's right, Doug. Constellation Shortlists help you narrow your search for technologies you need to meet your innovation and digital transformation goals. And we have 76, or I think maybe even more than that now. Shortlists.
More than 80 now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. To get you closer to a final pick. I have a bunch of new lists coming out, but in the show today, we're going to zero in on two important ones, including digital transformation target platforms. I'll explain what those are, as well as low code. That space is white hot and exploding, and Holger and I have been forced to split that into two lists, and I'll explore that as we go through this. How about you, Doug?
I have 8 new lists, or 8 updates of lists, 1 new list among those. And they're all in the data decisions categories. And we make these selections based on our customer references, partner conversations, vendor selection projects we're involved in, and our market share and internal research. And I'm going to start off with my newest list, and it's on automated data warehouse services. As more and more companies have gone into the cloud data warehouse services have emerged as this really popular high demand capability. The standouts, though, have taken advantage of cloud deployment to learn sort of in closed loop fashion and automate various onerous database management and deployment tasks. So we always have threshold criteria as part of these shortlists. And my criteria in this shortlist is that the service should be able to let you set up database instances without having to make a bunch of selections that you don't know yet what your data capacity is. You don't know yet what compute capacity, what storage capacity you're going to need. You're not forced to make those choices because this service should automatically scale using serverless capabilities. And the database management should be automated. Self-tuning and optimization of queries also have tuning and tweaking capabilities because, automated databases can't be omniscient. They can't know every performance permutation you want. You want visibility into how these automation features are using to give administrators control. And so on that short list, I have Snowflake, a great multi-cloud choice. It's one automated cloud service that has 3 different cloud options for the storage and compute behind the scenes. Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse, obviously hugely popular database, but with all the advantages of automation. And then Google BigQuery, highly scalable, and was really one of the pioneers in this automation of warehousing capabilities. Diane, what's your first list here?
So I updated my digital transformation target platforms shortlist, and digital transformation target platforms is a combined offering, usually with a cloud platform. In fact, always with a cloud platform, and usually somebody who has sat down and figured out how to actually transform a business with it. How you take all the cloud services, how you platform your business, how you weave digital business models in, how you add emerging technology in on a regular, up the pace, adding things like IoT and blockchain. And there's proven architectures and roadmaps that are designed for different industries. So when you put that together, because most companies can't just walk up to a cloud platform and say, I want to transform. They've never done it before. So they don't understand how to apply it to their industry. They don't understand how to regularly deliver and add new technologies to it. They don't know what the digital business models are. I'm tracking over 100 of the top digital business models, and those are not baked into the cloud platform. Somehow you have to figure out how to add them in. And so this year we had some big changes. Accenture Cloud has morphed into something called Cloud First. It's a massive multi-billion-dollar effort. I think it's over 10 billion. They've invested in saying, all right, you start with the cloud, but you have to add all these other things. We already understand business. We already know how to adapt it. We have industry templates. We have the business models. We have all the rest of the pieces and a mature roadmap on how to do this step by step to actually get to a completed, finished transformation. And we've done it before. SAP also has changed. SAP Cloud has turned into SAP Business Technology Platform. And they have a variety of companies like Deloitte and others who have built services, PwC as well. So those are two major additions to the list this year. Of course, all the big platforms are on there, Amazon Azure and Google Cloud. And they also have their partners that add all the rest of the steps that the average business needs to take to completely transform what they're doing into a new digital world. And so I don't see enough people really talking about that whole end-to-end step. Everyone's starting with cloud and then trying to figure it all out, and there's 1,000 decisions downstream. And so people have already come out the other side, have these in packaged offerings. And so that's my updated list there. And Doug, what do you have next?
Well, my second list that I want to highlight is cloud-based planning platforms. And now these platforms are a big advance over spreadsheet and email, which is how a lot of companies still do planning, sending around spreadsheets of their financials. But these cloud-based platforms for planning help companies with budgeting, forecasting, reporting, analysis, as well as that strategic financial planning and operational planning in many areas such as sales and human resources. So this has been a very stable shortlist for years with Anaplan, Oracle, Planful, and Workday Adaptive Planning. And the Q1 2022 list adds OneStream software and SAP Analytics Cloud. Now, OneStream has been growing quickly as a choice, particularly for larger enterprises with sophisticated requirements, including consolidation and close. And SAP Analytics Cloud is getting very popular among SAP customers. They've got tight integration with SAP ERP systems, with their data warehouses, and particularly operational planning capabilities. So, Don, what's your second list here?
Well, we've been struggling with our low-code shortlist, Doug. Holger Mueller and I maintain that together. He's got the next-generation apps, and I see low-code as a way of unleashing digital transformation at scale. Only about 4% of the population or of our workers can actually code, yet we have to transform 100% of our organizations over time. And so low code lets anyone develop business solutions with very little skill. Like if you can use a spreadsheet, you can generate a lot of the applications you need to do your work. You can actually automate a lot of what you do, and it's happening. And so we've seen this explosion in low code tools, literally hundreds of solutions. Every week I get new funding announcements, major funding announcements for another low code platform, another no code platform. So we've had a real challenge in, our shortlists are supposed to be the best. Not everything, not everybody, not all, even the ones who are getting all the attention, they're supposed to be your shortlist. And so our shortlist had grown very long. And so Holger and I split it up into an enterprise low-code shortlist for solutions that are really designed for big companies who are going to have to manage thousands of applications that their workers create. You're going to have to govern them, do the lifecycle management. They got to put guardrails on them and secure them. And they come at a different price point and a different complexity standpoint. They have all the features for IT administrators, and they have all the features for business users and others. And so we've divided it up so the vendors that are more enterprisey, as you might call it, are on that list. And then we have this citizen developer low-code tools that are really aimed at individual contributors. They're people who might actually just pay for this themselves, or they might be small businesses. So you might see like a quick base on low-code list like this. That's the actual Apple owns that product. It's fascinating. And there's a bunch of others, and I encourage you to look at the shortlist after the show to take a look at it. But between the two of them, we've really made it clear like what's designed for a big enterprise and what's designed for an individual worker or a smaller business, and what kind of features. And there's some interesting crossover, like Microsoft Power Apps is kind of aimed at both. And so we put it on the citizen developer list, and we're going to challenge the industry to prove otherwise. But now we have two lists of the best solutions. We encourage you to take a look at that if you're looking to unleash citizen development of any kind in your organization. I'm collecting case studies you wouldn't believe about companies that are growing fast because they've unleashed low code, an IT department that now has mostly business analysts writing their code. I mean, it's a brave new world, Doug.
Yeah, you're totally right. The low code, no code is cropping up everywhere. I bet you there's going to be more lists. I'm challenged now maybe to come up with my own because I cover the integration platform as a service space. They're coming up with low code, no code features, BI and analytics. You alluded to Power Apps and Power BI. It's bacon and eggs. They go together. These low code and no code capabilities to create analytical apps, and I'm seeing them certainly from other analytical vendors. So I think there might be room for even more lists on low code, no code capabilities. But that's a quick look at 4 of the latest Constellation shortlists. Remember, we have shortlists in more than 80 categories. So visit constellationdr.com/shortlist. And of course, if you need more help narrowing down, we also offer advisory services to help you pick the shortlist candidate that's just right for your organization. And we know selections are hard, but between our shortlists and our advisory services, we can make it easy.
Well, that's a wrap on episode 27 of CRTV. Get set for our next episode coming up in 2 weeks.
That's right. Co-host Holger Mueller and Liz Miller will bring you the next episode of CRTV. In the meantime, follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter at ConstellationR and at the hashtag CRTV Show.
Thanks for watching and have a great week.
Well, a little bit more awake.
Do you have a panini for lunch, Doug?
I think it's you.
We can hear you, though.
I don't know what happened. Don't tell me my speakers went out.
Doug, can you hear us?
Here we go. Sure.
I'm totally perplexed.
Great.
It was probably just my keyboard. Duh.
So
hang on. I give you a cue here.
Sorry, I wasn't ready. I knew we were going quite that fast. Now I am ready.
I'm here with Diane Hinchcliffe, and we're going to shake a few. Shake a few. We're going to shake a few. Share. We're going to share. Try sharing.
It's okay. We're going to use RPA and Metaverse bots to automate this whole thing a bit.